Mm, Achyut,
Yeah,
are we ready to start?
waiting for the MCs to join.
Okay. And is the speaker ready?
Yeah,
Okay, great. Please ask them as soon as possible.
I think we can start now. Shreya?
Yeah, yeah. Good evening, fellow technoheads. It is my utmost pleasure to welcome you all to day 3 of CheckDit's first ever international research consortium, connecting the minds of tomorrow to the experience of today. Let us all experience the future of research and explore the horizons. Don't let the flame of your curiosity extinguish. We're here to learn, connect, and share. Supposing is good, but finding out is much better. Here is the at this platform, feel free to ask. Question everything since there is always one more thing to learn. This 8-day long consortium will open doors to various opportunities that is the world have never seen. I hope you take full advantage of this and see what CheckIt has to offer.
The consortium has brought to you in collaboration with Affinity, Heartfulness Organization, ACM, LNMIT, BMSCE, ECEL, IIT Mandi, IEEE BMSCE, CodeChef, VIT Chennai, Microsoft Innovations Club, VIT Chennai, Music Club, VIT Chennai, Dance Club, VIT Chennai, Skillanta, Ojasvi LPU, Dramatics Club, VIT Chennai, and in sponsorship with Wherever Motors and EduCheck.
Check it brings to you yet another magnificent opportunity to traverse the professional world. It's a mega internship program where talented young minds, individuals who thrive to bring revolution in the society can be an integral part of CheckDit. Upon completion of the internship period, CheckDit has provided safe and fun learning and working experience with thousands of courses to enable team members to realize their potential. Exceptional candidates can also secure a glorious letter of recommendation and certificate of completion. You can find out more about the details at our website. Also, note participant certificates will only be issued if you have attended at least 10 hours of the session in the consortium. So, kindly fill in the form for the same. Be sure it's compulsory.
Without any further delay, let's meet our first speaker of the day, Dr. Neeraj Atri. Shri Neeraj Atri is a great writer and president of a historical research center in Chandigarh. He is also the chairman of the National Center for Historical Research and Comparative Studies and has fought against the distortion of history by NCERT. Author to bestsellers like Brainwashed Republic, Physics Teacher by Profession, voracious reader, and a Sanatan warrior. Dr. Atri is renowned across the globe for his accomplishments and has over 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. Dr. Chardata Pingle, after listening to Dr. Neeraj Atri's speech, declared that he has achieved 61% spiritual level. The holy text of Sanatan was also released in Tamil on parables, which was promoted by Hindus Jangarati Samiti in Goa. The book was released by various Hindu personalities such as Rabindra Ghosh. It is a great honor to welcome you, sir. Please take it ahead. Please note there is also an audience watching us live from YouTube.
First of all, thank you, Harshu. Thank you, Shreya, for this wonderful introduction that you've given me. You've given a very wonderful introduction telling that I'm a physics teacher by profession, and I've got some interest in history, which was accidental. And today, since we've got limited time, I'm not going to go into those details. So let's dive right into the topic. It's always great to be addressing youngsters because the topic that I'm going to share with you is directly related to all of you. And since all of you are in that age bracket who've gone through those books, which will be the focus of today's discussion, you will find it, I hope you will find it relevant for yourself. The topic that we are going to discuss today is colonial historiography in Indian academia. Now, in 21st century, the topic might appear to be a little out of place because colonialism seems to be a thing of the past. We broke the shackles of the colonials about 75 years ago, and still, after 75 years, if we are still discussing colonial historiography, then that reflects very badly on these last 75 years which have gone. To begin with, what do we mean by historiography when we use this term? Because I've seen some people confuse it with history. Now, if we go by the strict definition of historiography, it is generally said to be the study of the writing of history. So it is not history, it is the study of the writing of history or a study of the histories which have been written. So for example, if somebody wrote a chronicle, say 200 years ago, and we are studying it, then that is known as historiography. Colonialism, I guess all of you are aware, it was a very bad chapter of humanity which almost vanished about 70 years ago from the surface of this planet. Before diving right into the topic, there is one very simple question which normally is asked. Since I will be talking about distortions in history, many people have a very genuine question that why would somebody distort history? And to give you an example, I have my own sister, elder sister. She is an English teacher, and when I started talking about distortions of history, her first question was a very natural reaction that why would somebody distort history? Which may be a very genuine reaction, but that also tells us that we as a nation or we as a society have somehow not understood the significance of history. A very simple example that I normally give is that there was this Hindi movie, a very famous movie which became a hit, which was copied from a South Indian movie, and that South Indian movie had been copied from a Hollywood movie. The basic theme of the movie was that there is this protagonist whose wife or his girlfriend is very brutally killed in front of him, and he is hit on his head, due to which he suffers from a problem which is known as short-term memory loss. And in that movie, there is, and the result of that injury to his head is that he is unable to process information, encode it and store it into his brain to be retrieved at a later state, to be recalled and understood. Now, scientists normally divide memory into two parts, long-term memory and short-term memory. So for example, now you are attending this speech which is being given by me, and some of this will be getting recorded in your brain, which will become a part of your long-term memory, which you can retrieve when required by you. Someone who suffers from short-term memory losses, that the processing of information is somehow not very efficient in the brain of that particular person, and since his brain does not process or encode the information and stores it in the brain, therefore it becomes inaccessible to him. In other words, anything beyond a time limit, generally which scientists claim to be about 15 minutes, anything prior to 15 minutes is forgotten. There have actually been persons who suffered from this disease, and just to give you an example, if there is such a patient who is suffering from short-term memory loss, you give him a magazine to read, he'll flip pages, he'll be reading it for 15 minutes, then maybe he puts it down on the table. Now when he asks you for a new magazine, if you give him the same magazine, he won't know that he's already read it. He'll again start reading it because there is nothing present in his long-term memory. Now, a similar function is performed by history for humans. It can be for an individual, it can be for a family, it can be for a community, it can be for a nation also. So why I'm giving this example is that will put us in perspective that if we forget our history, or if our history is distorted, then like this movie which I was talking about, there is one particular scene in the movie that the villain who's killed the girlfriend of the protagonist comes in front of him and says that, okay, I'm going to help you and let us find out the villain. And since this protagonist or the hero does not remember that this is that particular villain, he accepts what he's saying at its face value. So if we as a community, as a nation, do not know our history, then we are bound to repeat the errors or the mistakes which were committed by our ancestors. Now coming to colonial historiography, I'll start with an example, and since all of you are youngsters, you must have gone through those very books which I'm going to discuss. My focus will be, the example that I'm going to quote is from NCERT books which are currently being taught in our country, and they have been in currency for last 16 years. So most of you who have attended NCERT schools must have gone through these books. Do we have yes, share screen option? Just let me use it. Okay, here we go. Now, this first instance that I'm quoting, showing is from page number 44, chapter number 5 of class 6. If you notice the heading, what you can see is they're talking about books and burials. And just look at the bottom of the page, one of the oldest books in the world. What it says is, you may have heard about the Vedas. There are 4 of them, the Rig Veda, Samved, Yajurved, and Atharvaved. The oldest Ved is Rig Veda, composed about 3,500 years ago. This much is required for us. Now, the first point is they are saying that this Rig Veda was composed 3,500 years ago. How did they come to this conclusion? I'll just give a small example for this. In these very NCERT books, what they are saying is that the Rig Veda contains some references to a river called Saraswati River. And the colonial narrative was that there was a race of people who were called Aryans who invaded India from northwest, and they subjugated the local population, pushed them southwards, settled in India, created a caste system which was very, very oppressive, placed themselves at the top, who are known as and Kshatriyas, and the rest were pushed as Vaishyas and Shudras to be exploited by these invaders. And these people came about 3,500 years ago. That was the colonial narrative, which is present in the current NCERT books. Now, what is the problem with that? Now, what has happened is, with the advancements in technology, the satellite imagery, since there are so many satellites present in space, looking down on the surface of Earth, they have identified paleo channels. Paleo channels are the channels which existed thousands, maybe centuries ago, thousands of centuries ago, from which water was flowing. So those paleo channels have given an evidence of the Saraswati River which used to flow. Then the different disciplines of science, for example, archaeology and geology, they are telling us that actually there was a river by the names which was flowing through that region, and this river started flowing, or it got extinct about 4,000 years ago. Now, that will give you an idea that if there was a river which had become extinct 4,000 years ago, then this Aryan invasion theory falls flat, because that would mean, what it actually implies is that a particular race of people came from somewhere, started attacking the indigenous population of India, and then they started creating these books called Vedas, Rig Veda, Samveda, Yajurveda, and Atharvaveda, and started writing about a river which had become extinct 500 years before their invasion. So it does not make any sense, but still it is being peddled. Now then the question arises, why would somebody try to post date something? Because if this Vedic corpus, all the Vedas are much, much older, why would somebody like to post date them? The reason is again very simple. When these colonial masters came, they had two major objectives. One was to loot the enormous wealth which was present in India, and second was to convert all of them to Christianity, because Christianity is a predatory creed or a religion which believes in converting the entire world into Christianity, and they don't hide this agenda of theirs. They are very open about it, that they intend to convert everybody. So if you have to convert someone, then you have to tell them that you are inferior and you should be converted into something superior. If the Vedas predate the Bible, then it won't be possible, because when Britishers were attacking our country, later on they found out that the civilization of this country is much, much older. And if this truth is told, initially they could not digest themselves. But if this truth has to be told, that you have books which are ancient from our books, you have a civilization which is far more advanced than what we used to have in Europe, then that entire edifice is going to crumble, on the basis of which they are trying to convert. So that is one reason they're trying to post date everything. I'll just share another very interesting tidbit. Most of us have heard about the pyramids which are present in Africa. Just try to Google it around. You will find out that the date is somewhere around 4,500 years ago. If you try to ask anybody what are the basis on which this date has been arrived at, you will never ever get any answer. Why? Because the biblical scholars who believe Bible to be the word of God, what they've done is they've looked at the life of all the prophets which are mentioned in Bible, then trying to assign them some average age. They try to find out the age of Bible, and as a result of humanity, going right up to Adam. And that comes out to be somewhere around 6,000 years. In fact, since I am a student of physics, I've been teaching physics. 10 years ago, my ideals used to be Newton, Copernicus, Einstein, etc. Then by chance, I found a book which was written by Newton, one of my heroes. And Newton was saying in that book that humanity and Earth is 6,000 years old. So if that is the case, they will not date anything more than 6,000 years old. And as a result, everything that they find out, everything that is superior, everything that has some archaeological marvel, some sociological marvel, some literary marvel, that is always going to be dated less than 6,000 years of age. That is how colonial system is working, and it is still working. I'll give more examples of that. This was one of those examples. Now, moving ahead, when you look at this textbook of class 6, move on to next page, what they teach you, what you must have learned over there. This is again regarding Vedas or Vedic corpus. They're talking about Rig Veda. And just a minute. Oh, sorry. Now I want you to focus here on what are they talking about Rig Veda. Battles were also fought for land, which was important for pasture and for growing hardy crops that would grow quickly, such as barley. Some battles were fought for water and to capture people. Let us focus on this small paragraph. Now, try to imagine when you were studying in class 6, maybe you were 12 or 13 years of age, you must have read this chapter, or try to visualize any 12, 13-year-old child reading about his ancestors, what his ancestors were doing. Battles which were fought to capture land. Battles were also fought for land. Sorry, capture cattle. Battles were also fought for land, which was important for pasture, for growing hardy crops that were quick, and some battles were fought for water and to capture people. Does not give a very rosy picture of our ancestors. They were fighting for very mundane things like land, water, and to capture people, very primitive kind of people, almost a tribalistic society, not very advanced. Now, when I read this paragraph, it sounded odd to me, since we are a country which has so much of land. The land is very fertile, lots of water. We're not living in a desert. Then why would such tribal ancestors, why would we be having such tribal ancestors? Why would they be fighting? Because I grew up with an impression that we are the oldest civilization and we became civilized thousands of years ago. But this was not matching with that. So either my concepts were wrong, or what is being taught by NCERT is wrong. I started with very open mind over here. I thought because I am in physics, I don't know much about history. And since NCERT is an agency exclusively dedicated to writing history, they are the experts. So they must have done a lot of research before publishing these books. So what I did was I drafted an application under Right to Information Act, and I sent it to NCERT. This is the application which I sent in 2012. And you can read the specific query from me. From the 4th line onwards, it says that battles were also fought for land, and then it says that some battles were fought for water and to capture people. What I requested NCERT was, kindly provide the following information regarding the above text. Point number 1, all the verses which state that battles were fought for land, water, and to capture people. We can ignore the rest of these things right now. So I wanted to read that which verses of Rig Veda are talking about battles which were being fought for land, for water, and to capture people. Now, NCERT, before I proceed further, I had made about 110 such applications under Right to Information to ask about how they were writing this history. The response that I received from NCERT was this. In this connection, you are informed that apart from the text as mentioned in the book, no other information in this regard is available in the official files of the department. Now, this was very shocking for me, that how can such a responsible agency not be having any records? If they are teaching students, that means they have done thorough research, and that is why they are publishing these books, which are being read by lakhs of people, if not crores of people, but definitely in crores of people. And here is the top agency writing textbooks, which is saying that they don't have any information regarding what is being taught to millions of students all over the country. Now, this was an indication that there might be something fishy. Then I started reading about this. Oh, sorry. Now, when they shut this door, what option did I have? But I found out after my own research that NCERT is telling lies. So what could be done? Then I filed a writ petition in the High Court of Punjab and Haryana. And in that petition, I'm sharing you just one point. Look at page number 3. Same question which I'm saying. And here my contention was that what they're teaching is not based on facts. Because by this time, what I did was, now I don't know Sanskrit. So I went to Sanskrit scholars. I met those people who read Vedas. They told me that there is no such hymn, no such shlok, no such richa mentioned in entire Vedic corpus which talks about capturing people or fighting for land. On the other hand, what was happening, there was another, we may call it corollary if we like. What was happening was that whenever they were talking about Bible or about Quran, it was always very sanitized that these are very good books. They don't contain any kind of bigotry, any kind of discrimination. They give message of universal brotherhood. But when I started reading these books, I found some things which were very disturbing. Anyway, that is not our today's point. I'll move on. Then when I filed this petition in the Punjab and Haryana High Court, the court said that you send this petition to NCERT. The petition was very bulky. It was about 1300 pages of research. They said you send this entire petition to NCERT and let them respond to you. If you are not satisfied with their answer, then you come back to us. So then I sent this entire petition to NCERT. That was in 2014, I suppose. And then I received this response from them in 2017. Initially, I was not getting any response. I had to file an RT application in 2016 with NCERT, asking them that what are you doing with the petition which I have submitted. Then they told me that the history books which NCERT is publishing, they have been written by historians from Jawaharlal Nehru University, and your petition has been sent to JNU, and they are going to give you the reply. And finally, in 2017, this is the reply which I received. I'm sharing it with you. What was the response? Okay, look at this. Now, what I had said was that the ethics of the wars of Kshatriyas forbid attacking non-combatants, a fact attested. What I was saying was that a wrong picture is being created by NCERT, because whenever wars were carried out in our country, by our ancestors, there was a very strict code of ethics that no one is going to be captured. Whereas they were saying that people were captured during war. So what they've given as a reply is, the book does not raise the issue of combatants and non-combatants as suggested by the petitioner. Then I had also shared the account of Megasthenes. Yes, this is very important. Now, according to NCERT, Rigved was composed by these invaders who came to India about 3,500 years ago. And then they kept on writing this book still for about 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 years. How to find out what is true and what is not? Now, pertaining to that period, we don't have historical records, except one. That one record is when during the time of Acharya Chanakya or Chandragupta Maurya, a Greek ambassador had come to India. Now, the capital of Chandragupta Maurya was Patliputra, what is today called Patna. And the Greek ambassador Megasthenes had come to India and stayed here for about 12 years. And during these 12 years, whatever he had learned about India, he had written a book about that. That book is known as Indica. Unfortunately, the entire book is not available. Some fragments are available. So I got hold of some of those fragments, and there Megasthenes very clearly mentions about the code of ethics during war in India at that time. He had very categorically stated that when the warriors are fighting, they do not molest anybody. They don't harm anybody. They don't harm any farmers. They don't harm any husbandmen, etc. That is what I had quoted there as an example. So what NCERT was doing was, now this is the response that I received from NCERT, that the accounts of Megasthenes and those of Islam and Christian texts are irrelevant in the matter, as these belong to different periods and contexts. This is a very smart way. What they are doing in entire corpus of NCERT books, starting from 6th to 12th classes, they are maligning the textbooks which were written in this country, and they are eulogizing, they are praising the books which were written out of this country. They're praising Islam, they're praising Christianity, but when confronted with facts, what they're saying is that they pertain to different periods. But the same yardstick is not applied. Okay, anyway, let us move on to point C. Now, since I had demanded the verses which talk about capturing people, they're telling us that this one verse they have quoted from Rigved. Just take a look at it. What I would suggest is kindly go through it, and you will notice that there is not a single word talking about enslaving, capturing, or slavery. Let me read it out for you. Just a minute. To him, the Lord of all, the Lord of wealth, of light, him who is Lord forever, Lord of men and tilth, him who is Lord of horses, Lord of kine, of floods, to Indra, to the holy bring sweet som juice. Just 2 lines of that verse. And do you notice anywhere it is talking about capturing people? Anywhere it is talking about fighting for water? You will not find it. And what is the beauty? That they are not quoting the original Sanskrit shlok. They're not quoting the original Richa. They are quoting translation which was done during colonial times by a colonial Britisher called R.T.H. Griffith. And that is what they are reproducing. And then look at the paragraph given below, the justification that they are giving. The term translated for Lord is the epithet Jeet, meaning conqueror. Thus, Narjeet, Urvarajit, Abjit, etc. convey the sense of conqueror of people, fertile land, water. In other words, acquiring resources through battle or warfare is indicated by this verse. Now, this will tell you the kind of jugglery that they are doing over here. Just excuse me. So that should give you an idea the kind of distortion that is being created by present day historians using the history written by colonial masters. Anyway, still there must be some doubt which can exist in our minds that they're using the term Jeet as conqueror, but they've converted conqueror to capturer. That is the important point. Anyway, now let's look at the original Richa. What it says is, it talks about Vishwajit and Narjeet. Now, Narjeet can be called conqueror of people, but not capturer of people, which they have done. And then one very interesting thing that I found out was that is the word Vishwajit that you read over here, and that will give us an idea the extent up to which we have been colonized. Now, since I've already told you, I'm not very conversant with Sanskrit, and especially this Vedic Sanskrit. This word Vishwajit was a little intriguing to me, that how can we call somebody a Vishwajit? I met various Sanskrit scholars, and then I started reading Upanishads. And there is this one very interesting Upanishad in which there is a king who starts doing a Vishwajit Yagya. Now, what would be a Vishwajit Yagya? Try to think about this. Vishwajit. Vishwa's word, Jeet means conquer. So that means he will go out with a very large army, with his forts, with all his weapons, to capture or conquer the entire world, right? But yeah, yes, I've got a response from Omkar to everyone, conquering the whole world. Very, very true. But that is what I'm going to explain right now. And that will tell us how colonized we are. That is exactly what came to my mind. And what it actually tells us, what is a Vishwajit Yagya? That the king is going to donate each and everything that he possesses. Up to his last penny, he is going to give it as alms or as a donation to people who are destitutes. So he will start with zero, no possessions. That is known as Vishwajit. Because according to Hindu philosophy, Hindu cosmology, Hindu worldview, how do you conquer the world? When you conquer yourself, when you conquer your basest of instincts, then you are said to be a conqueror. And this is the most beautiful example, that Vishwajit is someone who lets go of everything that he possesses. And then he becomes Vishwajit or conqueror. Okay, anyway, coming back to the NCRT. Just pardon me. Just let me find it out. Okay, yes, here we are. This is what I was sharing with you. Now let us move further. This is again from NCRT. Then what they're saying is the same hymn continues. By sacrifice, the yearning sages sending forth their songs found furtherance from him who speeds the flood. In Indra, seeking help with worship and with hymns, they drew him to themselves and won their kind and wealth. Now look at the shamelessness of what they are doing. Not a single word talking about capturing people, talking about enslaving people. And yet this is what they are doing. And look at the last line. this justifies the statement made in the textbook. So they're trying to find out indirect justifications to push a colonial agenda. Okay, now let us move forward. Then there was this another objection. Okay, let me just go back and share it again with you. This is what they're teaching. Now look at the last line. Some of the wealth that was obtained was shared by the leaders. Some was given to the priests and the rest was distributed amongst the people. Look at the number of lies which are present in just this 1.5 paragraph. Now what they're saying is that wealth was obtained, it was shared among themselves, and then it was shared with the priests and the rest was distributed among the people. Now, the impression that I had since childhood was that the priests or Brahmins or the priestly class, they always led very frugal lives, led very austere lives. But here NCERT is saying that the priests used to get money from the loot. Again, this was very surprising, and I had again put a query with NCERT during my petition that how did you come to this conclusion? Now let us see what they are telling us. Here it is. Okay, now here, response, look at the response that they have given. As mentioned above, citing Quranic texts in the context is irrelevant. Why I said Quran was because most of our countrymen don't know the contents of Quran. Neither Hindus nor Muslims. Nobody knows about the contents of Quran. Or at least that is what I've gained. Quran has 114 chapters. They're not arranged chronologically. And in these 114 chapters, one of the longest chapters is chapter number 8. It is called Al-Anfal. Anfal is an Arabic term, which means war booty or the war booty, or what you can call as the loot from a war. This entire chapter is dedicated to how money has to be looted from non-Muslims and then it has to be distributed among ourselves. And today is not the topic, but just to give you an idea, the entire Islamic history is full of this, that the Muslims attacked non-Muslims in Makkah, in Medina, and then out of Arabia, everywhere, wherever they went, in India also, in Europe also, they would attack the non-Muslims, capture people as slaves, capture women as sex slaves, sell children in slave markets, which were flourishing in the Islamic world. And the money, or not only money, property, and women were also treated as property. They were distributed among themselves. And the person who started Islam was named Muhammad bin Abdullah. He's called Prophet of Islam. During his lifetime, whenever such a loot was made, 20% share was given to this person called Muhammad. That was his share. And when he died, the topmost Muslim was considered to be the Khalifa. 20% share was given to Khalifa for his management. And the Islamic preachers used to get share out of it. That is why I had put in my petition that why are you using these double standards? That in Vedic corpus, there are no such verses which talk about loot and share of booty by priests, whereas Quran very explicitly states that. That is what they're saying, that it is irrelevant. Anyway, now look at the part B. How they tried to create a false impression. Not even false impression, what they're lying is, look at point B. In Rig Veda, Agni is frequently compared. Just a minute. Yes, here it is. In the Rig Veda, Agni is frequently compared to the priest, while Indra is compared to warrior, chief, Raja. These analogies, okay, just look at this, provide the basis for inference about the practices prevalent. Now look at these words. Agni is frequently compared to the priest, right? Indra is compared to warrior, chief, Raja. These analogies provide the basis of inference about the practices prevalent at that time. Then again, we may cite just one example from book 8. Look at their tone. The tone is that, okay, you are just a lowly guy. We have already given you one verse. Now we are giving you another example. Just one example from book 8 of the Rig Veda to illustrate this. And when you look at what they are giving, again, there is a very long hymn from Rig Veda, but there is not a single word where priests are sharing money with them, or they're looting people, or they're capturing people. Not a single word. Just you can read it. And still, by using that colonial translation, they're trying to impose on the present day generation that this kind of tribal mindset existed during the time of Rig Veda, which is absolutely patently false. Then here, look at the last line. The hymn indicates that Indra, who is regarded as a warrior, will enable the invokers to win wealth in battle and give them a share in it. Who is regarded as a warrior will enable the invokers. So it's just a prayer, and from prayer they have derived the result that people were actually being captured, money was being looted, it was being distributed and was being given to priests. This is colonial historiography in action for you. Okay, I'll stop the screen share now, and I guess I've taken up my time. This was just an example to share with you. I can keep on going on and on. I've just shared one example from class 6, but I can go from class 6 to class 12 onwards, showing this kind of blatant distortion of history. And yes, somebody is saying that we don't even know our history. That is the entire point. If you don't know your history, if you don't write your history, someone else is going to write it for you. And then there is this very famous phrase in English: one who controls the past controls the future. And that is how we as a nation, we as a community are being fooled day in and day out by a narrative which is thoroughly outdated, thoroughly distorted, thoroughly colonial in its approach, and absolutely false. Okay, I rest my case over here. If anybody has any questions, I would be willing to answer them. Yes, please.
Guys, you can ask the question.
Okay, there is one question from, I think, Rituraj. The first and most pertinent question: did the government has done anything so far? I'm very sorry, Rituraj, nothing has been done so far. A committee, they're in the process of forming a committee, but till now, nothing tangible has been done. Okay, sir, how to seek for real history? What as students can we do? Okay, first is, if you want to learn real history, I would suggest go to primary sources. Don't read the textbooks which are in circulation right now. And when we talk of primary sources, what you can do is, there is a very bulky set of 8 books. The title is History of India as Told by Its Own Historians. It was published around 175 years ago by 2 British officers, Eliot and Dawson. That is one set from where you can get a glimpse of history. But then there is another, I'll try to find out if I can get the link. There is a website called Voice of India. They have a website called voiceofdharma.org. And what I'm going to do is I'll share the link over here in the chat box. These books are free to download, and they have been written by very dedicated and honest historians. They're free to download. You can study them. And what as a students can we do? If you want this history, this distorted history to be changed, I would suggest that put pressure on government. If you have a Twitter account, tweet it. If you have a Facebook page, write it. Write letters to Prime Minister, write letters to Education Minister, talk to your ministers, what is going on. Anybody you can lay your hands on, talk to them. That is what can be done. Okay, next is Kostab. Can our Indian school books include more Vedas and Upanishads at any point? Vedas and Upanishads will be, I think, too massive to be included in the syllabus, because in any case, the syllabus is very vast. But what can be done is the gist can be somehow told, because these are stories which tell about very high moral standards, very high ethical standards, something which we are lacking as a society. So yes, it should be done.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, please.
So, sir, I am not very sure about this, but I have come to hear that we don't have access to all our 4 Vedas. How far is it true, sir?
No, today you have access to all these things. All things are available online. And in fact, if I remember correctly, IIT Delhi or IIT Mumbai, either of them has put entire Vedic corpus on their website. You can go there and read it.
Sir, all the 4 Vedas without any... Sir, how do we know that if it is not the same, if someone has changed in the middle?
Okay, right. That is a very good question. Now, what could have happened was that Vedas could have been corrupted by somebody. What actually was done was, when the invasions from Arabs and Turks and Mughals started happening from northwest, the Brahmins who were in charge of keeping or securing these things, they devised a very unique system. Now, till then, they used to have it by heart, kanthasth kiye jate the. So they taught these Vedas to different students. I'll just give an example. Like, suppose there is one sentence. A quick brown fox jumps over a lazy dog. So the first student is going to learn a quick brown fox jumps over. The second one is going to learn brown fox jumps over a lazy dog. The third is going to learn the rest of the third part of it. So what is going to happen is they're going to have overlapping portions between them. Like it is counting from 1 to 20. The first one knows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The second one knows 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The third one knows 9, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Next one knows 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, 18, 20. When they will sit together, they will write, they will know that this is the overlapping part. So when it is again reproduced, it will be again reproduced in toto, incomplete. So that is how they could safeguard them. Varun Goyal has a question. I was watching a discussion on same thing by Sanjeev Sanyal, and he pointed out about Ashoka's battle and how it's flawed, and it was quite shocking. Yes, there are so many things which are shocking, and that Sanjeev Sanyal talk, I have not seen it completely. And in fact, yesterday I was just starting to listen to it. I've heard about 10-15 minutes. I'll go through it now. Yes. This is, when you're saying it was quite shocking, this is the biggest fraud that has been perpetrated on our nation for last 75 years. I'm very clear about that.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a mesmerizing and knowledgeable session and for answering all the students' queries. Thank you so much for your very valuable insights. I'm sure that all the attendants here today have gained so much more than they could have imagined. Handing over to you,
Um,
Harshul.
Now it's time for a vote of thanks. I will invite Anushka to present a vote of thanks.
Yeah, hello. Firstly, I would like to thank Dr. Neeraj Atri for taking out time from his busy schedule and agreeing to be our speaker for this consortium and delivering such an amazing session. I would also request the Checked It team to share the screen and provide the speaker with a memento. This is for you, sir.
thank
Following on, I would like to thank our mentor, Dr. Rajeshwari Hegde and Dr. Susan Elias, for guiding us throughout our journey so that our team could execute their dreams. I would extend my thanks and gratitude to our lovely sponsors, Baviro Motors and EduChecked, along with all of our collaborating organizations. Thank you, guys. Without you all, we could have never achieved this kind of event. And last but not the least is our outstanding audience. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next session on how to stop a pandemic, network dynamics, and simulation systems. I'm sure that you all are eagerly waiting given the present scenario. Thank you, and have a nice day.